All right, so welcome everybody, and thanks for joining this presentation here. I hope the recording have started. Yes, is blinking. So today I will show you a work that I conducted during the fall of 2020. And as Miguel said, this is a course that I'm giving at Sorbonne University. And the purpose here was through the different system that we're using, either Moodle as a learning management system or Zoom, to be able to analyze what is the behavior of the students and how do they work during the COVID times. So the agenda is pretty straightforward. So I will go through little details about Moodle and more specifically about the activity, present to you how I designed the quiz using basically closed questions. We are very interested in Moodle, and as well the different reportings that we analyzed and give some conclusion and takeaways. So before I jump into the subject, so as you may know, so we all been through these 2 last years, and some interesting data that I could find from the UNESCO, which is listing actually the countries across the world and how many learners are affected by different closures that are in place in those countries. We can see that the first response to the COVID in education was to fully close most of the schools and the universities. And as you may see, by the end of April 2020, we had something like 94% of all the learners across the world which were affected by a full closure. So that's a total of 172 countries, and it affects almost 2 billion students. So those numbers was huge. And as you can see through the learning how to deal with COVID, hopefully the situation flipped. And in most cases, we have partially closures, but especially also some fully closed, but mainly what we have is partially closures. The other thing that is interesting is the fact that we can see that the situation is changing quite a lot. We can see that through the line. I mean, the line changed quite substantively. So it means that some countries turned to closures all of a sudden. So it means that in most universities, including mine in Sorbonne, we've been informed of the closures on Friday for the next Monday. So it was pretty hard as an instructor to be able to adapt pretty fast to those change into the education. So the course that I'm going to present today, so this is a code here, so you're going to see this code quite a lot. So this is an introduction course to computer networking. It's giving at the Sorbonne in the fall. So here I'm going to report about the results of the fall 2020. There were almost 250 enrolled students. It's actually a new course. Not totally new because it's a merger between two courses that used to be given previous to 2020. And this is a required course for the computer science major. So it was totally designed in the context of COVID-19. So in the summer 2020, we knew that probably things will be back to closures and so on. So which means that we give the lectures on Zoom, okay? We give access to the recordings. We have the coursework that is all designed on Moodle, and I will get into more details regarding this. And the exams were proctored on Zoom and taking on Moodle as well. So we can say that is a almost fully online course that was given in the fall of 2020 and most probably in September 21. So this is a typical week schedule that we have. So as we may see, so we have lectures. The lectures are every Monday. At the end of each Monday and lecture, they have a homework assignment, which is a quiz on Moodle that they need to take and submit on Moodle. Then during the week following the homework and the lecture, there's a tutorial and a lab. And during the tutorial, the TA is giving the answers to the homework assignments. And there's a lab as well, and the lab is time limited. And during that period, they need to report on Moodle about the results that they gained during the reports. So this is a typical schedule, week after week. So that was for a duration of 11 weeks, which is the full term. So regarding the grading, so we have 4 main components. So we have the coursework, including the homework assignments that I just showed you, the labs. So there's 11 homework assignments, 9 lab reports. Then we have a project that is the course project the students do over the duration of the term. So the combination of those two components is 50% of the final grade. And we have then the exam, including one midterm that was taken in November, and a final exam, which was taken in January. And you may see that we have 20% for the midterm and 30% for the final exam. So what is interesting here is to see that finally, regarding, the exams is only 50% of the final grade, and the rest is about the coursework. Okay, so as I said, so both the assignments and the reports are designed on Moodle. So the assignments are open during the week following the lecture. They are time limited, so it means that the students can have access to the questions once they open the quiz, and they have 120 minutes to basically complete and fill the answers, and they have only one attempt. And then for the lab reports, this is real time. So when they do the labs with the TA, which is 105 minutes, they need to fill the answers in the report and submit it. And once again, they only have one single attempt, but here they can only start the lab and the report at the same time. So why do I use Moodle? And I think that in UFRJ and other universities in Brazil, you also have Moodle as a tool. So first of all, it can, for the instructor and the student, once again, we can transfer some information. So it means that I can either post some content, and we will see more specifically that the content may be some resources here, which are the files, folder, pages. So quite a lot of content, but as well activities. And I'm going to present the activities a little later. We can also, through those activities, assess the learning of the students. So we can basically engage the students and assess their progress. So there's a long list of activities available. So in my case, I will be interested in the quizzes. And of course, we have other tools available in Moodle, communication. So it means that we can post news, announcements, chat with the students and messages, post some important dates in the calendar, and so on. And we also have the gradebook where grades are posted under different categories. And we can even aggregate those grades together and provide some averages for each of the components that I presented previously. And then, most importantly, we have the reporting. And the reporting, this is what I'm going to analyze during that presentation and show you what we can learn about our students. Okay, so this is a typical course site. So for those who never saw, again, Moodle, so it's pretty simple. So we have here the list of participants, which is the roster of the class, the gradebook, the attendance. On the right, we can see the communication. So this is where you're going to have messages and other kind of notification that you receive a message. And for each topic, which is in blue, we have the resources, which are either PDF, URLs, or pages. But mainly what we have here, the activities, which is, in my case, quizzes that the student take as part of the homework assignment. So another interesting feature that we can even restrict the access to some of those content depending on the group of the student or some date and so on. So it means that we can even have a different view depending on which group the students are belonging to. So the Moodle activity, as I explained, so it is an interactive tool. So it lets you engage a student in learning, either by submitting polls, posts in the forum, databases, questions, and so on, but as well quizzes that will let you assess the progress of the student. So the assignments is one type of resource or activity that you can have in Moodle. Well, it is just about uploading a PDF file. So it still means that you will need to grade it manually. On the other side, we have the quizzes, which is an activity that can be graded automatically if you're using the right type of question. And in this presentation, because I extensively use that type of question, I will use the embedded answers, okay, which is also called the Cloze questions, which is a kind of fill in the blanks, okay? So let's talk a little bit about the settings first that I have for my quizzes. So as you may see, we have a quite extensive list of choices here in order to tailorize and personalize the quizzes. So either the timing, which means when should I open or close the date, the time limit that they will take, the grade, should it be basically, if I have multiple attempts, should it be the first, the last, the average, the best grade? So this is in case I allow the student to retake an assignment many times. We have the layout, so it means that I can have multiple questions per pages or all the questions on one page, one page. We have also the question behavior, which means that if I have, for instance, a multi-answer question, I can shuffle the choices, such as it make it harder to cheat from one student to another. And the review options, which mean that once the deadline is finished, what should the students see? Should they only get the grade? Should they get some access to the answers, to the correct answers? So they have multiple choices here. So in my case, the quizzes or the homework assignments have been designed as take-home exams, which means that they have 90 minutes to complete them. They do that during the week following the lecture and before the answers are given by the TA during the recitation. They only have one attempt. I put one question per page just because Moodle can auto-store the answers. So sometimes if the computer crash or they lose the internet, navigating from one page to another, we let Moodle store the answers. So they won't be lost. So I shuffle the answers as I already explained, and the only feedback that I get is the grade. So this is a capture of the screen. So I will give access to the PDF if you want to check on Moodle how it works. So I also put here the different information, and this is how you basically restrict the access as well. So this is just for your personal information for later. Okay, so regarding the questions that I'm using in the quiz, as I explained, so there's a bunch of questions you can use, but mainly what is interesting to us is the closed questions. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with this type of questions. So how does it look like? This is here a preview of what you get for those closed questions. So there are multiple types of them. And as you may see, the simple one is a box where the student will put an answer. And what is interesting is the answer that will be provided by the students can be matched to the correct answer that you give separately when you design the quiz. So it means that Moodle will compare both of them and give an automated grade. Okay, so you can either leave an empty box or give the choices as you may see here. So there are multiple types. I won't get into the details, but you get the idea. So in order to design such a question, you will need to basically provide some information as you may see. For the answers to be able to be provided to Moodle for auto grading, you have a special markup language that you need to use. Okay, so it looks like this. So this is a preview of what you get. So here I have the question, right, which is plain text. But then for the correct answer, I need to use some specific markup text to indicate what is the correct answer. And Moodle is even going further because you can even provide partially correct answers, the wrong answers, and then put the right points depending on what type of question or answer was provided by the students. Okay, so this is just a very quick table where I show the different components of the list of answers that you can provide. And as you may see, you have the points here, the percentage of points. So when it's wrong, I'm going to use a negative one. When it's partially, I'm going to give only 50% of the points. And when it's the correct answer, 100%. So it's quite detailed. So it means that it's not like black and white. So thanks to those kind of questions, you may have your students doing this. So I'm not sure if the background of most of the people attending the participant is computer science, but for instance, I can ask for an IP address. I give the IP address, the correct one in the answer, and Moodle will be able to correct this. So this is about the markup language. So let's see about the activities. And this is the part regarding the reporting. So now things are getting much more interesting. So what do we have here? So when you download the reportings, you have some information regarding the students, the state of the attempt, the date the quiz was started and completed, the time that it was taking to complete the attempt. So here, for instance, the student took 1 hour and 8 minutes, and of course the grade and the detail for each of the questions. So here, my quiz have only 3 questions, and I get the final grade for the student. And another reporting, you also have access to the IP address of the computer the student used in order to submit his quiz. All right. So first of all, what I wanted to show is just to give you an idea. So this is not Moodle, but this is Zoom reporting. So I just wanted to show basically out of the 248 students that I have, how many will actually attending the lectures. And as you may see, there's here, I put during the fall, we had two stay at home orders in France. The first one was half of the capacity of the university. So students could come during the lockdown one to the university, but only one day in rotation. So there were like different teams. One team was staying at home, and the rest of the students will come at the campus and will have rotation day after the other. And the second lockdown was the full closure. And as we may see, I mean, obviously what happened is after students, when they stay home, well, there are more students attending the lectures. All right. So somehow there's an increase. So does it mean that when they are on campus, they have other things to do than attending the lectures? Well, that's open subject. Maybe they like the coffee at the cafeteria. But anyway, the things that when they're home, they don't need to commute, there are more students. What I wanted to show also is the recordings. And there's something that is quite interesting here. So this is a number of views. So each color is one of the lectures. So lecture one was the only lecture that was given in person. So there were 11 of them for the 11 weeks. And as you may see, we have something that is quite interesting here. So this is the number of views per date, okay? And we can see that we have some peaks here, okay, for each lectures. And somehow it was surprising to see that on a very specific day, quite regularly, we have the highest number of views. And of course, this can be explained by the fact that those peaks is Sundays. Why? Because the homework assignment was due on Monday before the next lecture. So what it looks like here is the students who wants to complete their homework, they will go watch the recordings, and then out of those recordings, they will basically solve the homework assignment. Okay. One other thing that was quite surprising to us when we analyzed these results was the fact that, as you may see, I indicated with the bars that we can see here the midterm and the final. And what you can see is like basically before the week before the midterm exam and the week before the final exam, the students didn't watch the recordings for the lectures. So we were quite surprising about this behavior. So what I did, I turned my attention to the tutorials, giving that one group, which have 47 students enrolled, have access to the recording of the tutorials, okay? And we can see that if they don't watch the recordings of the lecture on the week before the exam, well, they turn to problem solving during the recitation to make sure that actually they can prepare for the exam. But what is interesting is like, even here, most of the time is on the day before the exam. So it's quite crazy, but yeah, students work until late before the exams in order to prepare. So that's interesting behavior here. The other thing that we did is regarding the submission. So we went and checked on which day of the week they actually submit, given that they have one full week to complete the homework assignment. So we open on Monday, they submit on the next Monday. So that's why I have 2 Mondays here. And obviously what we can see is like most of the students, okay, will submit during the 24 hours before the deadline, okay, including like Saturday in the middle of the night, okay? So in order to complete those results, we went into watching a little bit more in detail what is the submission time. And what we can see here, what I indicate is the time slots as a row, and the columns is each day of the week. And we can see that, okay, the red color here indicate the highest percentage of submissions. And if you do the math, given that you have the deadline here, a little bit less than 80% of the students submit their homework 12 hours before the deadline, okay, which is huge. So it means that 12 hours, given that the deadline is around noon, so it means that it's from midnight on the day before to the deadline, which is noon. So it's quite impressive as well. So what we try to do here is to check what is the average grade of the student depending on the time slot of the weekday they are submitting. So we cannot really see here a clear indication that if you work on Sunday, your grade are less good than if they work in the middle of the week. So that was interesting. And what we did as well is we try to see how much time does it take for the student to complete the homework, given that we can see some very troubling information here. Like here, it means that the students only took 3 minutes to complete the homework, given that they have 2 hours to do it. All right, so 3 minutes somehow is a little concerning. So in order to analyze this, what we went and we do, so we're downloading the reports again, and what we did, here I present for 2 homeworks, homework 1 and homework 10, which was one of the last one that I needed to take in December. So what I plot here is for all the submissions, I took the increasing completion time. So blue is the duration, and the grade is in red, and you can read the grade out of 20, which is on the y-axis on the right one. And as you may see, what is interesting here to see is to see that, first of all, the average improved over the term. So it means that for the first homework, they have an average of 14 out of 20. And for the homework 10, they reach 16 out of 20. So there's a kind of improvement over the course of the term. And what you can see also is like the grades are less spread around the average. So it means that the median value is lower in the case of the homework 10. Another thing that is a little troublesome was the fact that when you look at the duration, the time that it takes to complete the homework, well, in the case of the homework 1, we could see that half of the students, it took at least 75 minutes for half of the students to complete the homework. But when it comes to the homework 10, you can see that much less of the students need more than 75 minutes to complete the homework. Okay, so you can see that a lot of them actually couldn't. So does it mean that actually they can get to work better so they can complete the questions and the answers much faster? That was a question that we start asking ourselves. So you can see, so during the duration here. What we do here, we also show the same data, but this time we order the submission according to the date. So here there's no trend. There's nothing much we can say about it, but what we can see, we can obviously see that the grades start moving upwards. So you can see that here we have a lot of 20s, okay, top grades. And basically they are less spread. So we have like a lot of students having grades above 12 or 13 compared to the homework 1 here, which actually was much wider. And concerning the duration, we have the same observation like previously. Like instead of having like a whole duration, we can see that mostly the students do it in less than 1 hour. So some kind of improvement, but we've been a little bit troubled by the peaks that you can see here, those ones. So what does it mean here? If I look, oops, but I need to clean it, so I'm sorry. Okay, so when I look at what we have here, what is interesting is to see that we have a bunch of students for that homework, but it's the case for all the homeworks, that are actually completing the homeworks in less than 20 minutes. And the question was to study a little bit more about this behavior. How can we explain that students, instead of taking the 2 hours, because there were extensive number of questions, how could they complete it in less than 20 minutes? So in order to analyze this data, what we did here, we took the same information that we plotted in the previous plots. And what we did here, we ordered the submission according to ascending grade, which is in red. And in blue, what we have is a completion time. And once again, here, what we have students who actually complete in 5 minutes, in 20 minutes, but as well, less than 5 minutes. And the question, of course, that we may ask yourselves is to understand, is this cheating? So do the students receive basically, do they receive the questions, the answers beforehand? They open the Moodle and they just put the answers, or is there anything happening here? So I would like to see so what I can do, I can create a pool here and to see what is most of the audience trying to will think. So cheat. So let me just create a quick pool. Okay, so save. Okay, and now I can start it. So launch. So guys, I give you like a couple of seconds to see what is the general idea. So I can see that there are 1 vote, 2 votes. So guys, normally somewhere in your window you should have access to to this. I mean, if you want to play the game, please do it, as we can take a few minutes, and maybe I can take a quick question while waiting for most of the participants to answer the polling. So, okay, so we have 10 votes, 11 votes. I don't even remember. Okay, so let's see. So maybe 12 out of 18. Okay, we're almost done. All right. So from what I can see, the vast majority of the participants. So now I'm sharing. I think that you can see the results. I'm sharing the results of the polling. So 70% of the participants think that is due to cheating. Okay. So let's try to look into this a little bit more. So okay. So I hope that everybody can still see the slides. Is it okay? All right. So what I did then, if I look a little bit more into this behavior, what we can see something that is quite interesting. It's so a quick answer. We have 8 TAs. So what we can see here is an interesting behavior. So first of all, we can see that the grades are increasing in steps. So which means that along one step, what we have a bunch of students who are actually having the same grade. Okay, and you can see that there are a wide diversity of grades here. And another interesting thing about each of those steps is the fact that we always start with someone who takes almost 2 hours, and the step ends with other students who take the few couple of minutes that we saw before. And so somehow, one of the interesting here was to say that, oh, wait a minute. So does it mean that the students in one step, they may belong to a team of students who gather together and may work together? Because we didn't specify anything in the regulation saying that they should do the homework assignment without working collectively. So let's talk a little bit more about this, what I call clusters, which is the teamwork. So first of all, what I did, I tried to analyze the behavior. So I take the students who actually submit, as you may see here, their homework in the same time period of 2 hours, and who actually, even if we have very low completion time, they basically submit it in the same envelope as the team head that I have here. Once I have those cluster of students, whoever could complete the homework without being part in the time, in time to one of those teams, it was a suspect of cheating. And those who actually took a long time without being part of any of the teams are the student working alone. So once again, I consider one student he opened. In the meanwhile, some other students, usually toward the end, will also open, submit the questions, and obviously all of them need to have the same grade. Okay? So let's see what we did. So we run this cluster identification algorithm. And what we obtained, so we have the 4 categories here. So I will basically summarize those results quickly. So for the average across all 11 homework, we can see that the students, it was almost, in average, we have 215 submissions, 215. The average grade is 15.60, and they took almost 50 minutes to complete the homework. Now I look at the clusters that I identified. So we can see that the grade of a cluster is better than the average grade. And obviously they only take 20 minutes. Why? Because you remember that in a team, you have somebody who used the whole duration of the 2 hours, but some other team members, once they got access to the questions and the answer, they work all together, then they submit in 2 minutes their answers. Okay. So then we have the suspects, and what was quite relieving here is the fact that the suspect doesn't get a grade much better than the average. So this is quite similar to this one here. And obviously the time is very short, 6 minutes. Okay. And regarding the students working alone, and that's something a little bit more troubling is a student who usually work alone get a grade that is way below the average. So it means that working alone, not in a team, for some students indicate that somehow they have difficulties. And they took like much time, a longer time compared to the rest of the class. So I think that what we can see here is the teamwork is really interesting to the students because it helped them, all right? And cheating actually was quite not so frequent because on average, we only, we suspected only 9 students out of 248 students who actually were cheating. So I won't get into too many of all the details that we have, but here what I have is a table where I try to show the frequency of this. So it means that, for instance, what we can see that none of the students were suspected in cheating. So we have 60 of them who didn't cheat at all. We have 15 of them working for all the homeworks alone. And what we can see that none of the students work into a team to complete all the homeworks. And basically, most frequently, they work for between 1 and 4 homeworks in a team to complete them. The rest of the time, I mean, very few of them were working for all the homeworks in a team, okay? Most often what we have students working alone. And as you can see, another interesting thing is the fact that no students were suspected of cheating for all 11, all 10, all 9, or 8 homework. The only student, and 40% is mainly 1 or 2 students, they cheated for 7 of them, okay? Okay, so if I have a few minutes, and I'm going to turn to Miguel, do I have a few minutes to show a few slides regarding the geolocation? So,
yes, I think yes, of course.
So
I have some questions from.
Yes, of course. So we can take a quick break, even though the geolog is few slides. I'm listening.
Okay, so the first question I had was if the students can submit incomplete homeworks.
Yes, they can. So that's a very good question. So first of all, yes, they can open and submit nothing. So which means that they're going to get a 0. Okay, so once they open, and what is more, if they don't submit by the 2 hours left, if Moodle couldn't log any of the answers, they're going to be graded depending on what answers they gave and was logged in Moodle.
Okay, I have another question. I don't know if anyone wants to do questions. My next question is regarding the team. How did you cluster? I think I didn't pay attention to something.
No problem. So what is your question again regarding the teams?
Yeah, how do you organize the clusters? You show clusters, the teamwork.
So as I said, so the idea was to say that, okay, so it's faster if I scroll through it. So as I said, what was interesting to us was to say that, okay, so we saw this kind of behavior here, and this behavior was pretty obvious to us. Like, we have a plateau, a lot of students get the same grade, and some weird grades like 14.2. So what we said that, so let's see, those students on one step, do they belong to the same cluster? So the cluster means that I ID the students who do the assignment at the same time of the day. On Monday at 9, 4 students are together. They open, or one of them at least open it. They get the same grade with the detail of the points for each question. So I don't watch only the final grade, but I also look at the details of each of the points they receive for the grades. So which mean like, so somehow to have the identical answers and points somehow is concerning. And then out of them, what I see is I look like if one student, it took to him less than 10 minutes to submit it. Why? Because he did it at the same time as another student opened the assignment for 10 minutes, for the 120 minutes. Okay, so that's the reason here. That's what I try to explain here. So as you may see on this slide, what do I have? I have students working together. You see? So here I have 1 student, 2 students, 3 students. This guy opened Moodle. all the students have access to the questions. They work together with the answers, and by the end, they all open the Moodle, take the answers, and put them as they are, and I'm finished.
Okay. And the grades from it, the grades, they are computed by Moodle.
Yes, auto grade.
Okay. There's no comparison between the answers from different students. The comparison is always done taking into account the correct answer that is already configured in Moodle, right?
So either, and as I said, I have also the correct answer, but as well partially correct answer. So if I see that many students gave half of the answer, I'm asking for a mask, and I can see that there's a mistake that is quite frequent. I add it and only give half points. All right. So there are multiple levels of points as well. It's not like on-off. You don't get all the points or 0 points.
Yeah, but you don't compare the answers from students. You don't compare answers from different students. Always the comparison is done to the answer in the system.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So I have another question in the chat. Yes, I can do this. So I didn't present it because basically I had no time for this. But what we did, we can do random questions as well. So this is basically, you have to watch it here. So basically, you can have questions in the bank and ask Moodle to go pick up selectively, randomly versions of the questions. And so that's what we did for the final exam, basically. So what I'm showing here is just the fact that if you have like 3 questions, and for each questions you have 6 versions of the questions, you can see that finally randomization will give you access to 256 different exams. So what we did is like we have the same type of question but different data, and so we submitted this to Moodle, and we can do random stuff. That's a very good question. Thank you, Baya. All right, so I will continue a little with the geolog, okay, before concluding. So this is the information regarding the geolog. So as I said, we have IP addresses. Somebody have a question. I will take the question later, Rodrigo. Okay, I'm sorry. I promise I will read your chat in 10 minutes. So what we have here, we have the geolog. So as I said, we have the IP addresses. You know that nowadays there's a lot of banks available, even online and free, that giving the IP address, you may know where is located the computer. So that's what we did. So we extracted all the IP addresses and we mapped them here on this map here. And as you may see, so students were mainly in France, obviously, but also in other parts of the world. So our interesting question here was to see what was the effect of the stay-at-home order on the students. So did the students stay in Paris? Did they keep their student room and pay for the rent, or they decided to move out? So in order to look into more details, but we can see that we have few students in the US, in Korea, in North Africa, and so on. So what I have here is an animation. So it's going to start now. So where I show how the student, oops, it goes super fast. What happened? Oh, that's weird. Sorry, guys. I don't understand what happened. Just a second. Is it this one or this one? That's interesting. I didn't. Well, anyway, it's supposed to. I'm supposed to have here an animation. Okay. So, yeah, here it is. So you may see the points moving. So this is at the time that they submit their homework, where they've been. And as you can see, from homework 1 to the rest, you may see that somehow the points have scattered across Europe. And here, just to make it more visual, I centered on Europe. Okay. All right. So now let's look into a little bit more detail regarding the distance. So what do I have here? I take the average distance of the students from the campus. So this is in kilometers. And as you may see, we have the lockdown 1, lockdown 2. And as you may see, the general here idea is like there's an increase. Okay. And basically, we have two areas, one first, one second, and one third here. And as you may see, each lockdown have an effect on the students who start moving away. So I know some of you may ask me, but what about this one here? Well, what happened here is like, instead of having the midterm the same week as we did, because we decided to do the homework online, most of the colleagues said no online, they're all going to be cheating, so we don't want to do anything random, blah blah blah, so let's do it in person. So during that week, the students were supposed to take the exams in person on the campus. So as you may see, well, the students, they left and then they come back and they return to where they were. So anyway, so you see, so they pay a lot of plane tickets, train tickets. Why? Because we couldn't trust them. Anyway, so let me resume the animation. So, and here what I show you basically in red, this is the students who moved out of France. And in green, what I have the students who stayed in France, but they moved out of Paris. Okay, so they move another region. And as you may see, well, some of the international students moved, well, but not so much. Here we have basically 12% of the students who are international students, and obviously here we have 21% students who actually moved out of Paris. Okay, but this is quite consistent with the number of international students that we host in the bachelor, in the computer science bachelor. All right, but we may see that yes, the stay-at-home orders have an effect. Okay, I think that it was a terrible thing not trusting the students and telling them that guys, there's not going to be online, so please take the pay for travel tickets to come back. Anyway, I think that it's so sad, but anyway, that's the way it is. So we are trying to complete those results, and I will show them in another article where we try to show the effect on the progress of the students to see if students who moved have an impact on their grade. Okay, I'm not going to show that today. Anyway, this is a table that details the graph. Anyway, I will leave it there. So as a conclusion, because I really want to keep some time for the questions. So as we may see, so Moodle is quite flexible and scalable. Okay, so it can allow you to monitor quite in detail the academic progress of the student. Okay, you can design highly customizable assignments, and that's very, very interesting component of Moodle. So the thing with the online assignment is you can do auto-grading one, okay, by using the right type of questions. And well, I know in computer science, it makes things maybe easier than in other subjects for sure. And what is good also, you can provide some feedback. Okay, it could be student-specific or answer-specific feedback that let you also let the student work on this. And regarding these exams, so yes, we can do some random selected exams. So if you have one question, you can design it with different data. And the more variants you have, the less the likelihood that students get the same exam is very low. Okay, and of course there are other solutions, tools, and I can see in the chat some people suggested this. So the safe browser, so which means that they cannot do copy paste, so it will open a big window in the middle of the screen, and if they try to switch to another window or do a copy paste, it may kill the main window. Or IP addresses, so you may also restrict the IP addresses that are used. So that's, for instance, when you have on-campus exams. Anyway, I'd rather stop here. I have a little bit more takeaways for this, but I think that a discussion would be much better at this stage. So obviously, I thank everybody for joining. So here's, oh no, first of all, oh my God, I forgot to show the acknowledgement. I want to acknowledge, of course, my team. So Kim Tai, who is a co-director of the course with me, and all the TAs that we have. So here are the pictures and names. So I have the question. So we have 8 sections, okay, with a given number of TAs. Here are some references you may read on the subject. So I try to do as well some tutorials on Medium explaining how to do it, because I know that Moodle somehow was not, the documentation is a little complicated sometimes. So I have a few articles about that, and there's a couple of articles that you can read. The latest one is from Educon 2021, so that was strictly related to Zoom, and we have one that was just submitted a few weeks ago to CSE. All right. So thank you so much for your attention. I'm sorry I was a little long, but we have plenty of time for questions, and I would be very happy to answer the questions.